Hey guys, it's your boy, Baldface8020, back again with another great commentary. By the way, if you're wondering why, I usually, when I'm on camera now, only do it with the one hand instead of the two, it's because I have to use the other hand to hold the phone. So anyway, this is kind of following up what I did yesterday. I didn't even really want to make this video, but I feel like I kind of have to because it'll just be in my head and it just kind of like needs to get out. I need to get it out. And I'm thinking about it a lot because of, like Casey and Tate, has gotten big now too. And, obviously, you can tell that Tate's success bothers Casey. And, and like I said, we talked about it yesterday. We talked about how much personality matters and stuff, and, or like where it matters. And, so, I think the next follow-up question is, well, like, okay, well, what kind of personality? Like, like I was saying, good personality is pretty broad, especially when in the video yesterday I said, like, you could have a personality that's just like you could have a personality that's good for some things and bad for others. You could have a personality that's good for picking up some girls and not good for picking up others. And, and even counterproductive. So, I guess the question, it depends on a lot of things, obviously. So, like, which personality you should go with. Should it be, like, depends on the kind of girls you're going after, the kind of, what it's not even really relevant what you have going for you, right? Because we're just talking about which is the best, not what you should do. Now, like me, right? My, insofar as I had success from my personality, it was but from leaning into my sort of natural oofy doofy personality, which is that's just how my personality is, and it fits my looks, so like it wouldn't have made it, like if I had tried to, act like, I don't know, like a jock or a frat boy or something, it just wouldn't have worked because it doesn't, I mean, first of all, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Second of all, I don't have the looks to pull it off. It's not even about looking good per se. It's about looking like in a way that's congruent with your personality. Sorry if I already said that. But beyond all of that, there's a lot in, certainly in the red pill community, and I mean, Tate's like this a lot, and Casey to a more autistic degree is like this idea that to attract women, in so many words, the biggest personality thing is dominance. You need to be dominant to attract women, and you guys aren't going to like this, but there is a kernel of truth in there. It's just not really the way that those guys think about it. Even Tate, who's not the moron that Casey is, doesn't really get it. The thing, first of all, I can tell you this from sales, right? There is like a degree of dominance that people gravitate to, and you'll even notice this probably, like if you've ever had to like look for a lawyer or a doctor or something, that you like, especially with a doctor, you will notice, and not everybody's like this is true, but most people, men and women, when they're dealing with a doctor, they are going to feel much more comfortable with a doctor who comes off as very authoritative, who doesn't like ask you about what you want and stuff. He just looks at the problem and says, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to come in for operation, this. He's going to be like really like in charge of the whole situation. Most people are just naturally going to feel more comfortable with that person, even though he might not be any more competent or even less competent than somebody's like, well, there are multiple options here, and, we can do this, and this. And, so did you want to do that? That it's like that kind of thing. So in sales, they try to tell you like, like you're the expert, you're the doctor. So you don't ask them what they want to do. You tell them and obviously that's not realistic, but insofar as it can be done, I've seen people do it and they do sell more. Now, whether somebody like me could pull that off, I certainly never have. Maybe I could with some clients. I don't know. I don't really try to sell that way. I just, sell the way I sell. And plus I do insurance where it doesn't really matter. It's all based on price anyway. But I digress. So it's kind of like that with women. So, but with women it's a little bit different. Like, whereas most people, men and women, are going to feel more comfortable with the doctor or even a lawyer or something who's more authoritative and maybe even kind of a dick. That authoritative personality is not going to be attractive to all women. Okay, it's absolutely not going to be attractive to all women. It's not going to necessarily be the best over the course of a relationship, which is something that Casey and Brandon Tate don't seem to understand. I mean, maybe to some extent it will be for some relationships, but every relationship's different, every woman's different, stuff like that. So, but I don't think that's what any of us are really interested in here. And it's at least not the scope of this video. However, what is going to be attractive to the largest share of women in terms of personality is that dominant, authoritative personality. And like I said, I don't have it. Like, insofar, I've had personality success from oofy doofy charisma, which matters too. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it or the only personality matters, but the kind of personality that's going to have the most success, and the kind of personality where you can see guys with mediocre looks get 9s and 10s is based on that authoritative personality. And I can give you 2 examples. The first is the common one, Jack Nicholson. And I know what everybody's going to say is, oh no, he was actually Chad. No, he wasn't. I mean, he's a little bit above average height, a little bit above average frame, and his face was okay. I mean, like, yeah, he's above average looking, if that's what you want to say. But he wasn't even Chad light. He was like, he was whatever the male equivalent of a Becky is. And could he have had any woman he wanted? No, of course not. But he was able to get like 9s and 10s. And I know you're gonna say because he was famous. No, even if he wasn't famous, he still would have done it, just because his personality. Now, it wasn't just dominance in his case; it was dominance plus charisma. So you need other things there too. I'm not saying otherwise, but I'm just saying that the dominance part can be a really big part of it, even if it's not always there. I mean, you're pretty much always going to need charisma. Maybe not super always, but you're mostly going to need it. And I know that this is just an example from Coach Blackpill. I have another example after this, but Coach Blackpill said that, like, the hottest girl he was ever with, like some Swedish 10, right? Who he met on like some fetish site. He's not into that stuff, he says, and I believe him because he's autistic, and autistic people aren't into that. He said, he just knew it was a place where you could meet attractive girls, but he said the hottest girl was just like some Swedish 10, tall, slim Swedish 10, and like, he got with her, but she was really into like that more like she was like, I don't know what she was like outside of sex or anything, but at least when it came to the bedroom, she wanted like a super dominant type. And Coach Blackpill couldn't really pull that off. I mean, he said he could play the part, but it wasn't him. It's like what I said is, if the girls who are into that, they don't want you to play the part. They want that to be like how you really are. And he said he ended up losing out to this like 5'7" guy, this mediocre 5'7" guy looking guy who had like some kind of cuck fetish. But since he was able to like be the dom, or I guess that's what they call it. I hate that term because I just think it sounds gay. So well, he ended up winning like some 10. That's obviously an extreme example, but that's all I meant to do it as an example. But another example for like a more real life example would be Serge Gainsbourg. And like he got Jane Birkin, who was like 20 years younger than him. And like he's not horrible looking except for his ears, which he had like true Dumbo ears, which just really made it was a really negative aesthetic. His face was, I actually think his face was kind of handsome. I think most people would say it was ugly. It was definitely weird, and even Jane herself described him as ugly. And he did have really good hair though. But anyway, he was a guy who was just like, again, there was kind of like this weird, this sort of offbeat charisma plus dominance. Plus, he had like this sort of artistic genius vibe. I don't know if he was a genius or not, but I could see how a lot. He comes off like a genius, whether he is or isn't. And Jane was like, she definitely, I mean, we know she wasn't attracted to his looks because she mentioned it at first, like how gross she found him. She found both his looks and his personality gross at first, but then he somehow got in her mind, and she was like so in love with this guy. You can see from the pictures of them together, like she's just so in love with him. Like it like jumps off the out of the photo at you. Much more so than he was with her. I mean, with him, you can't really tell. Like, what I know that it sounds like they did have a pretty good relationship, but like, he was more kind of like, aloof. So in both of those cases, and like I'm talking about the Jack Nicholson and Serge Gainsbourg, those are just the two examples that come to mind. It was more than just dominance. It was dominance plus charisma, plus maybe some other stuff. But the dominance was probably the biggest part of it. And so I just want to say like a few words about dominance. So like guys like Andrew Tate and Casey make that whole dominance thing a really big deal. But dominance does not mean you tell her what to do, okay? And she does it. This is something that like Tate and Casey both really misunderstand, because it's a really big deal to them. They understand that dominance is usually an important part of attraction. An important part of attraction for women, but they misunderstand what they mean by dominance. And they seem to think it's like you've got like this sort of explicit authority over her in the relationship. And that's absolutely not what it is. Okay? The explicit authority, when we talk about like traditional stuff where men have explicit authority, like either traditional cultures or traditional religion, those cultures and traditions were created to deal with the fact that most men don't naturally have a lot of dominance. If you're dominant, you don't need that authority. So what attracts women is this sort of, I don't know how to describe it, sort of like non-explicit authority. And I don't know how to describe it beyond that. And what that involves is absolutely not deliberately being in charge, not deliberately doing like the autistic Casey thing, like, here's where we're going for dinner, here's where we're going to the movies. No. Don't do that. Okay, that's not going to work. It's just going to make you look like a try-hard douche. She's not going to buy it. It doesn't work. What it is just something that you will, I really notice it because I'm in sales, but even in your day-to-day life, if you just observe, like, forget about all the alpha male, beta male shit, forget about masculinity, just really observe how people interact with each other, how you interact with people, how people interact with you and stuff. And what you'll notice is that there are some personality types who people just defer to. And often these people aren't very physically imposing. In fact, more often than not, they're not even men. They're women. You can go look up the things of like Millionaire Matchmaker, Patty thing. And like, she was such a dominant personality. Okay? She was just in charge. And now often dominant personalities will order people around. Okay? That doesn't mean you go out and order people around. It's not going to work when you do it. The reason that they're able to successfully order people around is because they're dominant. They're not dominant because they're ordering people around. So what makes somebody dominant? Well, honestly, I don't know. You just either have it or you don't. It's kind of like, I think it's like asking what makes somebody charismatic. I don't know. You have it or you don't. What makes somebody dominant? It's the same thing. Like the assistant principal at my middle school. I remember when my dad met her, and he said the scariest person that that he had ever met, and really small, like really tiny, like 5'1" maybe, and she scared the hell out of people. And she was super dominant. She was also insane, but let's forget about that. I liked her. I liked her a lot, but but she did and said some crazy stuff. So that obviously that when you're insane, it does add to the intimidation factor. And a dominant person doesn't necessarily have to be super intimidating or something, but they're just, like I said, they just have it. And another group of women who you'll often see this sort of like really big like very dominant, is underclass young black women. Like in America, at least. In Africa, not so much. The women there aren't very dominant, but they've kind of always been known for it, and you'll see it, and you'll see that people kind of defer to them and are wary of them, and you'll see like they can just do this stuff. So it's not about trying to act like any of those people or something. But I guess what I was trying to get at is, if you put, Patty from Millionaire Matchmaker, right? If you put her personality in an average-looking young guy, that guy would kill it with women. He would do phenomenal. He would get some really attractive women. He wouldn't get any woman he wanted because he's average-looking, and there's going to be a looks threshold, and looks are still the most important thing. Not saying anything else than that, but he would do very well. And but again, it's not because she acts a certain way, or again, it's not about acting a certain way. It's about being a certain way. I think New Poster, if he's watching, will be able to back me up on this. You either kind of have it or you don't. It's not everything, even in terms of personality. It's not everything, but there is really something to it. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next.